of the Samurai is a cult classic series of samurai games where you play a wandering rōnin and decide who to help whenever you wander into a new location. If anyone, that is, as you make the decisions. And in turn, will determine what antics you get into along the way. While the earlier games were more serious, with some goofy moments, it was the fourth game in the series that killed the whole chance of a future by going Saints Row the Third, taking what was established and flushing it all down the potty humor toilet drain. So today, we'll take a look at how this series started with Way of the Samurai 1 for PlayStation 2, originally released in 2002. Yeah, this game is officially 21 years old now. To start, you have a basic character creation. Name, you choose your head, you choose your outfit, and weapons if you have any from the past playthroughs and whatnot. Depending on what endings you may or may not get, may or may not unlock the other heads and outfits. And that's all you get for character creation. It's very, very basic and very, very lacking. Afterwards, you begin, and the controls are dated, to say the least. I mean, I love old school Resident Evil, but this is worse than the original Resident Evil 1 on PlayStation via 1996, where you had to use the D-pad only to control everything. This game's camera loves to play against you alongside the controls, so depending on which direction the camera is pointing and everything, will determine the angle and direction of the controls. So if the camera switches on you, your controls switch on you too, and it causes you to wonk out. And this gets really bad with the combat. But anyways, let's get back to the game. When you start and figure out the controls, you wander across a bridge and you encounter a group of goons kidnapping a young woman. This may or may not be your first and last encounter, depending on your choices next. Do you choose to help the woman? Do you choose to try to side with the goons? Do you try to ask questions? Or do you just walk away? Depending on your choices will determine the path that you can take going forward, with branching paths leading to different endings. I chose to try to ask if I could join these guys, and instead I got hog-tied to train tracks straight out of Looney Tunes. After struggling for a while and doing my best to break dance by doing the worm, I was rescued. I wanted to join this group called the Aqquire clan for helping me, but I never made it in time to the headquarters. As time goes on, as you play, and you will miss out on certain things. This is the beauty and huge flaw to the series. If you're not careful, you can get locked out of the entire ending you were going for and get the worst one. Well, besides death, which gives you nothing. So because I screwed up and missed the meeting in the evening at their headquarters, I chose to roam around and see what I could get into. I tried to fight the guys who tried to kill me with the train earlier, but the guy was just too strong, and thankfully I can beg for forgiveness and have him back off so I didn't die here, because I was very close to dying. And that's another thing about this game. Everything has consequences of some kind. One moment you think you're a badass and you're gonna win, that you're an elite samurai, but then reality comes back to bite you in the ass. Then afterwards, I found the restaurant with the woman who was kidnapped earlier. She recognizes me as a bad person, and her friend, this black man named Don, threatens me. Yes, black samurai. Yes, Afro samurai, for those of you who are old enough to know that one.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
I apologized and got on good terms with the two. I even helped defend the restaurant from the corrupt Aqquire family. Afterwards, I wandered around till evening, where I had to fight a corrupt policeman. Since he relies on a pistol, you know that means he's weak. After slicing him up for a little bit, he decides to call his muscle in to fight for him, while shooting me in the back. What a bitch. After slaying Dumbo, he runs away like a coward. Later on at night, I found Suzu, the woman from earlier, who needed me to rescue Dawn, standing outside the restaurant. Apparently Dawn ran off to the headquarters of the Kuro family, who once ruled the area with an iron grip, but the Japanese government is intervening. I was supposed to sneak in here, but given this game's limitations and clunky nature, I didn't. Instead, I tried running through the whole thing to find Dawn, but had to fight my way through in the end, barely alive, relying on the worst swords imaginable from the corpses of my enemies, because your weapons have durability and they can and will break, to which at that point you can either try to get them repaired at the blacksmith, or you can just toss them and try to get a new one from an enemy's corpse. And eventually I did find Dawn, who decided to try sneaking in here in order to steal a money chest, because he wanted to give it to Suzu so she could start a new life far away from this corrupt area. But I ended up getting killed because there's no healing items lying around, you have no inventory, and Dawn was useless as hell. He did not fight at all. I had to fight, and I ended up paying the price because of it. There are a total of 6 endings in the game, but I failed to get a single one, as I struggled with the game's horrible controls, dated combat that was fleshed out in later games. It also doesn't help you that you have no inventory in the game. Unlike in later entries, this means you won't be able to carry healing items or stones to repair your blade, so that way you don't have to worry about it being destroyed. And there's barely any healing items lying around in the world, but there's a lot of mushrooms, but the mushrooms are deadly. They will take away your health, and they can indeed kill you. And as much as some people might like shrooms, this isn't the Rōnin experience. This makes the game suck horribly, because you have no way to try to salvage anything as you're struggling to get by, because how can you play anything when the enemies can easily gain up on you and kill you, and you got no healing items lying around in the world and no inventory to carry healing items? You can only carry 3 weapons, and they can easily break, and at that point you're fucked, just like the score I'm giving this game.
All right, I gotta leave, okay?
John, we just started. Come on, man.
Listen, there's a lot to see in this life. Not wasting it here.
I was honestly hoping the game was going to be good. After enjoying Way of the Samurai 2, then playing 4 on the PS3 before it came to PC alongside the 3rd game, I just find those ones more enjoyable, more acceptable, more approachable. So to find the first game so mediocre leaves a bit of sorrow in my heart. But hey, there's 3 sequels, all of which are better, though the 4th one is still my least personal favorite, and my favorite is still the 3rd game. Way of the Samurai 2 is the sequel to Way of the Samurai 1. As with most sequels, you would expect improvements to the series, yet Watts 2 doesn't do much to fix the flaws of the series, from the awful controls and combat to the camera always fighting you every step of the way. Watts 2 left me pissed off after playing for 2 whole fucking hours to only get a game over, all because this game is a clunky, obsolete mess.
It's awful.
Originally, my first Watts experience Watts 2 left a good impression on me. Then again, that was well over 10 years ago. So what's changed since then? Well, games have peaked with controls and cameras for one, but also they're more balanced and not garbage in design. Games today are more approachable in every design. So when booting up Watts 2 for the first time in 10 years, I was surprised at, as how well this game has aged like milk in the Arizona desert sun.
Anyone at all? Would you buy that? None of y'all wouldn't buy that. You're not fucking stupid.
The character creation is slightly improved upon with more heads and outfits, but also a new feature and mainstay to the series, an inventory system. But unlike the first game, you won't find much stuff to pick up, including healing items. Instead, everything costs money in the game now, and that's impossible to come across, so there's no point in the inventory system. Upon starting, I got heckled by a gang, and they told me to join them if I want easy money. So I did, and the gang jobs were awful, as I found myself wandering around, unable to find the random NPC in a random location at a random time to pickpocket. And to pickpocket, well, it's not explained, and there are no buttons that work, so you can't pickpocket. Right away, the game makes it clear, it's awful.
He ain't lying.
Later on, I met a doctor who hated samurai, and I offered to help him, to his surprise. But then I found out that it costs money, and I can't afford crap in this crap game, because even though I did collect money, it never added to my
What did you eat?
inventory. Why? Because this game is broken, glitchy, and a total mess. Did Bethesda make this trash heap? So I abandoned that story, as well as the game one. Then I found myself on the side of the magistrates, fighting a corrupt member, fighting at a festival, and then slaying the corrupt member, eventually leading to the root cause of the entire plot, involving retarded flowers. Next, we charged into the gang headquarters to kill everyone, and I died, because I can't get healing items, and the only one I had took the majority of my health away for no reason whatsoever. It's clear this bad game wanted to be more than the first, but it carried over everything wrong with the first game. The boring plot, the awful controls, the awful camera, the unbalanced difficulty. I hate this bad game. I'm afraid to boot up Way of the Samurai 3 and 4 now. I want to remember those games for being good. But alas, I must review each one. The only good thing I can say about Watts 2 is they actually got voice acting this time, even though it's not that good, and the auto quality makes my ears bleed.
What?
What happened?
No.
What's going on?
What are you doing?
Somebody help him.
What's going on?
Well, there goes another game I held fondly, but that's how life is, you know? Way of the Samurai 1 and 2 might be crap, so let's see if the next two are as well in the future. Till then, enjoy these reviews on crap games, as I have many more planned for March.
Loser! You're a loser! Are you feeling sorry for yourself? Well, you should be, because you are dirt! You make me sick, you big baby!
After having a bad time with Way of the Samurai 1 and 2, I didn't want to review the other two, but alas, I need to fill out my quota. At least 5 videos per month on every 5th day, with maybe something on the 30th, but not always. So let's dive into the third game, Way of the Samurai 3, and see if it's any good, or was it just nostalgia blinding me towards this cult series? Only one way to find out. The game takes place during the well-known Sengoku period, the Warring States period of Japan, between various warlords for control of the land of the rising sun. You fight in a battle and are badly hurt. You then have different ways to start, such as attacking the pillagers or asking for help. Choices are better than ever with outright attacking or begging as options to allowing you to intervene in certain scenes or to cause total chaos, or even just a game over for you. Anyways, the location is Amana, a fictional land ruled by daimyo Fujimori Shuzen. This feudal lord started an uprising against his former lord of the now extinct Sakurai clan. The Fujimori clan is tyrannical, and because of this, there's been several groups who oppose them in various degrees. Of course, it's up to you to decide who to side with and who to kill, if any, which leads to different endings. This time, there's more than ever. For example, if you want to fight the Fujimori clan, you can swear an oath to Aqquire clan, a group of lowlifes that have no respect for law, order, or honor, with options to side with other members who view things differently from their leader, or even being a loyal lapdog. You could also just kill the leader of Aqquire clan and take over. There's so many options that I just can't be bothered to list them all. It's insane just how much more player freedom there is in this game compared to the previous. Take note, CD Projekt Red and Bethesda. This is how you make choices and consequences and branching paths. You have several different characters you may or may not meet during your playthrough, depending on your actions and choices. This means if you don't go to a certain location at certain times, you can indeed miss out on key characters that could lead to different endings and plots if you choose to pursue them. The Fujimori clan has many members. The leader and tyrant, Shuzen, the loyal lapdog, Masatsugu, I'm trying my best to pronounce things here, the bloodthirsty skank, Arahime. Then there's the questionable Shinosuke. For Aqquire clan, you have the leader, Genjiro, the former Sakurai clan member and dreamer of re-establishing the former clan Yuma. Then there's the cold-shouldered female samurai, Isuse, who seems to have a motive you can pursue if you choose to. I tried and never made the right choice. Damn, my desire for a badass female samurai. It's just like Watts 2 all over again. Except this one isn't a bloodthirsty sadist. Then there's Takatane Village, all oppressed by being overworked and overtaxed by Shuzen, with 3 key characters that have a past you can dig up if you choose to. The leader of the village is an elderly man, Umemiya. Then he has 2 children under his care, Ose, a young girl who's very protective of her people, and then there's the brat Kota. There's several more characters you can run across, but these 3 groups are the key factions to the plot. The game still has a bit of jank, especially with the camera, yet it's also very much more playable than before. You can tell they finally started to figure out what they were going for. I barely had any problems moving around and fighting. In fact, the combat was very satisfying, just slicing up people and flinging them into the air or kicking them, using different weapons from swords to spears, or even your fists. Yes, you can fight with your fists in a sword fight if you don't have a weapon equipped, and weapon weight will determine the impact of your weapon and the speed. The game is still punishing in certain parts, so be sure to grab healing items to stay alive. To which, thankfully, they brought back healing items laying around from the first game, and you no longer need to just buy everything. You can still buy everything, you can sell stuff, but the fact that they just have healing items laying around in various places is great to have again. And of course, you can be dishonorable and take crops from people or offerings at shrines and graves. After all, what's more important to you? Staying alive and being dishonorable, or dying and being honorable? To which brings me to minigames, because one I played could kill me if I was not careful. You have a variety of minigames, like ringing a bell for an old woman who mourns for her dead lover, or cutting up a fish within a time limit. You can even slice up vegetables, but be careful, cause you can get hurt during this. The crazy old lady does like to chuck stuff at you. You also have a few more, like making sticky rice cakes, or taking up jobs for various people, like finding lost children or beating up thieves. There's a lot more side activities this time around, and they're more doable, unlike Way of the Samurai 2 jobs being so inadequate, leading you to fail the job for not giving you better details. For the first time and only time, you now have partners to help you along the way. That is, if you find them and meet their requirements. With 14 possible partners, there's enough variety for every player, such as a widow spear fighter that you have to pay for protection at night, or even the return of several main characters from the first Way of the Samurai game, to which I'll lead to you to find yourself. But each one comes with a counter to, such as some not being able to fight and only being useful as being camels, or that they will steal stuff from you like weapons, money, and items from your safe. Yeah, I rarely use them because of this. What a stupid design decision. Imagine playing Skyrim and Lydia just steals all your potions at random from your inventory and any containers in Breeze Home. What? It's just a fucking bad mechanic that ruins what could have been a staple to the series going forward, but instead dies within Way of the Samurai 3. Yes, in Way of the Samurai 4, you have no companions. You also heard me mention a safe. You get a safe house, just like in Watts 2. But this time, it's more obvious, and it's right near the start. You can easily stash everything you want there to protect in case you might die, or you just need to loosen up your inventory to make room for more stuff. But the problem is, certain partners will steal your stuff when you hire them. Such as, one will steal your swords, another might steal your money, another might go and take your items. So, be careful when you have partners. They are total D-bags. So use the safe house to stash things, and of course sleep to pass time. But don't go to one if you have a partner hired. Dismiss the partner before you go to your safe house to keep your items safe. The first two games only had a handful of endings, like 6 or 4 or whatever, and only a couple paths you could take. So for the third game, you now have 22 endings total, most of which are just variants of others, like killing Shuzen in 3 different ways, or help rebuilding the Sakurai clan in a couple different ways. So it seems like there's more, but there's also really not that much more. It's just like slight variants of one particular ending. So yeah, 22 endings, but not really any variety. So you can kill Shuzen in 3 different ones. You can choose to help rebuild Sakurai clan in like 3 different ones. You can kill off the entire population and get the secret ending, which is the Grim Reaper ending. You can get yourself killed. You can be dishonorable. You can get the true ending. You can get the ending that involves love. You can side with Isune. You can take over Oka clan. You can run away from Oka clan. There's just a lot of options, but they're really not that much different from one another. And of course, out of all these 22, 1 is a secret and 1 is the true ending. The last thing I want to talk about is the PC port. Given that this was a PS3 game at one point, how well does it play? Are there cons like only controllers can be used to play? Or stability, especially with Windows 10 and 11 and the like? You can use keyboard and mouse, you can play for controller, and it runs just fine on Windows 10. I don't know about Windows 11, because honestly, I'm dreading upgrading to Windows 11, and I sure as hell ain't going to the vegan community that is Linux. The only time I had an issue with this game was changing the resolution. After starting the game up a second time and then changing the resolution, I had no problems ever again. So I have no complaints about the PC port. It runs just fine, and I had no other problems outside that one little crash. Overall, I was shocked to find that this entry was actually good. It's a bit rough in some areas, but otherwise playable, unlike the first two games on the PS2. Watch 3 for PC is a good game worth checking out. In fact, start with this one, then try the fourth game, but avoid 1 and 2 at all costs. Anyways, not sure when I'll get to the fourth game, but it'll happen one day. Till then, see y'all later. It's time to finally finish off this series of awful games. Way of the Samurai is a cult series of games. They're also a cult series for a good reason. They're trash, except the third game, which is the best of the four, but it's also still heavily flawed. Check out that review later. Anyways, now it's time to finally cover Way of the Samurai 4, the last game of the series, released back in 2011, and then came out a year later in the West for the PlayStation 3. Only released digitally in the West with a sub and no dub, unlike the last two games. Eventually it got ported to PC, and it was a trash port. Shocker. Lame. And yes, that's the version we'll be covering today.
足にも一本ください。
いいよいいよ。僕は今最高に気分がいいからね。
The plot this time involves the British Empire trying to get into Japan, with a corrupt magistrate in charge, and finally the Japanese Proud Boys. They do not use tiki torches nor sunscreen. But that's it. Those are the three factions, and you have to pick a side. Lame. No memorable characters either. It's all in Japanese only. Wow, they cut corners. Shocker. Lame.
Shit!
So just decide who to side with and get a bad ending, because the game is full of one-sided battles, broken mechanics, instability from the bad PC port done by Ghostlight, and escort missions. Oh goody gumdrops. Lame. In fact, by the end of the game, I got a bad ending for not protecting the Lolicon from the Dragon Scales, the Magistrate's elite unit. I didn't even get any samurai points for ending the game afterwards, so I spent hours playing this game just to get fucked. Didn't unlock a single thing because this garbage escort mission. Fuck you. The combat is clunky and boring. You can't even use half of your abilities because they're not programmed right. The PC port broke so much of the game. I've played this game several times on the PS3 back in the day. This port is just atrocious. Trying to use any abilities is near impossible, so just spam the basic light attack and strong attack. You can't even use your spring gauge to increase your attack. Lame. Also, the whole having to pull out your sword to destroy crates and barrels just to put your sword away and pick up a single item is just so cumbersome. Plus, it can get you arrested, which you cannot avoid. They spawn out of nowhere and arrest you instantly. No chance of fighting back. Nope. Lame. There's nothing to do in this game Outside of the main story, you can only wander around and wonder where the music is and content. There's no followers or safe house either. You're entirely on your own. The only thing I noticed you can do is fish, but it's so boring, expensive, and dumb that it might as well not be there. You need at least a few inventory slots to fish. You only have 10 total. This means you need bait. And every time you catch a fish, or even if you don't catch a fish, you will waste bait, and then you need to go buy more bait. And the fish that you can catch don't have high value, so you can never make profit. Bait is expensive, and money isn't easy to get hold of. It's just not worth it. At the end of the day, Way of the Samurai 4 is another turd from Japan. There's no redeeming factor to speak of, not a single pro, only cons. It's a broken PC port as well. Half the time, there's no music in the game, it's just awkward silence. The combat is awful, akin to the first game. The story sucks, there's no memorable characters to speak of, there's no English dub, the humor is cringe and straight out of Saints Row III, aka Saints Row the Turd. The game is unstable and will crash randomly, so you have to save often, but there's no point since you cannot carry over your inventory when you end the game and start anew. That means unlike the last game, you have to start out with no money, health, items, etc. every time you play. How stupid. Much like the developers of this trash product. Thank God the series died. We deserved better samurai games than this failed abortion. Aqquire should be ashamed of themselves. Anyways, that's it for this video. See you all later.
Shit!